Okay guys, today is a big day and I'm gonna tell you why. Project customer car, we'll just call it that. Project customer car is done. This thing is buttoned up 100%. It is ready to go. We did have it on the dyno. I didn't film any of it. It was pretty uneventful. There was very few issues. Well, there weren't any issues actually. The only thing that was a little concerning, it's down on power, it's low power. It only made like 408 horsepower. And before you go, you know, well, keep in mind this is a stock block Ford motor with a little tiny turbo on it through a big giant AOD. This turbo is a 57 millimeter, and on 8.5 pounds of boost, it made 408 horsepower. The problem with that is, and I'll have to show you just so it makes sense. The turbo is a T4 based on center housing, exhaust housing. And for you guys that are not old school, I can actually show you. I got a housing sitting over here. An on center housing is what it means when where the exhaust goes into the housing. So I'm going to show you on my turbo what the other kind of housing is. So hold on one second. Okay, so this is the new exhaust housing for Bob, and the turbine housing that's on this car is an on center. So the exhaust, instead of going in over here on the side, it actually goes in right square in the middle, lined up with that bolt. This housing is called a tangential housing, or tangential housing, or something along those lines. Probably not saying it right. Anyways, the big difference between those two housings, aside from the obvious look, is that the tangential housings flow way better. And what that means for this car is this car has huge amounts of back pressure, and I'm not monitoring the back pressure on the Holly, but judging by the way the power curve looks, by the way the car sounds, it is definitely suffering from back pressure problems. 5 pulls on the dyno, and it didn't, the header gaskets are already leaking on it, if that tells you anything. And this car has a bad history of blowing head gaskets, and everything has been the same considering the turbo system, the turbo and everything. So we planned all along to get a bigger turbo or a better setup for it, and it's going to come back for that. But for now, the owner's going to take the car, drive it, and enjoy it for a short period of time while he recoups some of the funds that he spent on this thing, because he spent a lot of money making it right, in my eyes. Fuel system, Holley Terminator X, replacing the fuel filters, changing this, changing that. So we're building the car the way that I would put it together if it were mine. Now, the turbo that we're going to is going to be a VS Racing 7875, the Gen 2, the big boy. It's going to be too much for this combo, meaning that it's going to make more power than this motor can take, but it will be, it'll make good power on low boost, and we won't ever have to push anything. So, on to the good part. It's time to put Bob back on the operating table, right here in the center of the garage in his own little home. So, I've decided to change a couple of things, small things, before I run the car. I'm going to add a secondary injector driver so we get full sequential on 16 210-pound injectors. Some of you say, well, Brooks, why are you doing that? Well, it's funny you should ask, because I am pretty sure that I'm going to go to methanol, and that will greatly simplify tuning and drivability and all that neat stuff. I still plan on driving Bob on the street, by the way. The number 2 thing that we're going to add to Bob is we're going to do away with this. This mess right here. This mess right here is functional and it works. I don't have anything tied up right now, so it's a little messy looking. But some of you will remember some of the trips down the track, Bob would shut off for no reason. And well, it actually had a reason. One was it did a wheelie And when the car came down, even though my fantastic pedal job brought it down nice and easy, it shook the relays out of the relay board. We don't want that. It causes other problems. And another time, it shook the tires and shook the relays out. And it makes for lost races. Happens at the most inopportune times and things like that. So we don't want to deal with that. The PMU is more or less a big solid state relay with 16 inputs and 16 outputs and a switch panel that operates on the can. Anyways, super cool stuff. More on that later. But let's get this car out of the garage first. There she is, starts up and runs good. I'm gonna change over to our street dash. There we go. I think you can probably hear that annoying ticking header gasket, but it is what it is. I don't want to change it right now because we're getting ready to redo the turbo kit. It's just not necessary. All right, so my buddy Greg just came over and helped me bleed the brakes, and we got Bob where he can go and he can stop under his own power now. Just not very long because we don't have water or radiator or anything like that in it. And the whole purpose for all that is just to make it where I don't have to push this thing up and on the trailer by myself because I can't do it. It's too heavy. Ain't no fun. So right now I'm just kind of piddling around, trying to get a few things done before the end of the week. I started looking at mounting the alternator up. I got a pretty good idea what that's going to look like, and well, here, check it out. I'll show you. So I have it sitting on one of my custom jack stands. It looks like I'm going to be able to tie in right here. Again, tie in right here. Use these two bolts with a fancy piece of angle iron. We're going to cut it and trim it, make it look nice and all that stuff. And there's actually a couple of bolts that go into the block behind there that will fasten it to the block and make everything nice and rigid. And then when we put this piece that goes from here down, across, and then up to the other tube, we're going to put this adjuster arm right here mounted to the frame, so we'll be able to swing the alternator in and out like that and tighten up the belt. So that is looks like that's going to be relatively easy, hopefully. I think, maybe, kind of. Oh well. So I got to make a throttle cable bracket so we can well, back to that getting it on the trailer thing. So I guess now that I've got a good idea what we're going to do on the alternator, it's time to do something on the throttle. We got this thing kind of semi cut up and ready to mount this cable to it. We're going to trim it up nice so it doesn't look like just a piece of hardware store material. But you're getting the idea. That dotted line is where the cable has to go. And then looking at it from the back side, we got to get that cable as high up as we can to the bottom of this piece so that the throttle is in line with it. And I think you can probably get an idea. The top of that is pretty close to the bottom of that, so it's going to fit pretty nice on there. All right, got the hole drilled for the cable in the back. We did a little bit of layout here so we can make it look kind of fancy, and we're going to trim it up. All right, one step closer. Starting to look like something. I think that's pretty much it. The throttle cable bracket turned out really good. I'm going to turn this camera around and show that to you guys. Just a little bit of imagination and some hardware store aluminum gets things done, and it actually doesn't look like hardware store aluminum. So there it is. Contoured the edge real nice so it's just not a square block of blah. And then I had to make the little lug that goes in here that the cable goes through and attaches to, and then hook that all up. Now Bob's got some throttle. And most importantly, I do not have to push the thing up on the trailer That's no fun at all, not under any circumstances. So yeah, this weekend we're going to get the front end started, done, something. I don't know how far we're going to get, but of course we're going to video that, and it'll be in the next one. So anyways, thanks everybody for stopping by and checking out this video. I know it was kind of all over the place, but we got some stuff done. We got a car out, we got Bob on the operating table, and hopefully he is there until he runs with a turbo, I should say. So until the next time, guys, we'll see you. Thanks.